Hello and a very warm welcome. My name is Gail Watson. I am the director of ThinkSkill, the virtual classroom training production agency. We specialize in support for the virtual classroom. And today I would like to share our experience over the past, my experiences over the past almost 20 years, and for ThinkSkill since 2013-14. And why do I want to share this experience with you? It is because you would have thought that there was a before COVID and an after COVID when it comes to engagement in the virtual classroom. However, it is not quite exactly that. We have found that even though a lot more trainers are much more comfortable with the environment, it doesn't mean that the level of engagement in the virtual classroom has majorly or massively improved since 2019. In June 2022, so at the moment, 4 months from now, we exhibited at CIPD Festival of Work. And we had a giant wall of challenges where people working in the festival were posting post-its, and everyone who contributed said that their challenge is around engagement, engaging the learners, maintaining engagement over sessions. So today, I feel like I would like to share with you a few tips to design and create more engagement and better connection with your learners. So in return, you will have a better experience and feel much more positive about the virtual classroom. Interestingly, we always talk about engagement, but it is only one of the 3 pillars from the virtual classroom. The other 2 that you really need to work on are relevance and trust. Relevance is obviously why the learners are there. It has to apply to the work, to what they do. It has to be positive consequences. And you might have a group of learners with very varied role or background, or even geographically spread, and their circumstances are different. And those learners will have to trust that they're not wasting their time, that it will work. Not only that the technology will work, but also that the program, the content you as a trainer will help them progress toward the goal. And how is it going to be done? So let's look and let's embrace the challenge. A successful virtual classroom is one where the technology disappears. The learners don't mind anymore to be online. They're connected between each other and with the trainer. They're connected with the topic, and they're all working towards their goals. The technology disappears, and the focus is on the human and what the human want to achieve. To reach this stage, you have to have like a certain 3 key elements: design and planning, facilitations, and also flipping back to the end, it is the impact. What do we want to achieve and how we will achieve it for each and every single learner? So let's start with design and planning. It has to be done slightly differently in a virtual classroom environment. Having said that, everything you do for face-to-face totally apply in the virtual classroom. The challenges are slightly different. Time is often a constraint, much more than a face-to-face environment where it is often a 9-to-5 activity or process. So you have to be very specific. And that's why we start with the goals, support real-life applications. What is it they have to do by the end of it? And then looking back at having some very specific skills and competences based on which you are going to create activities and tasks and practice and reflection. You can see already we're talking about not content and lecturing and information, activities, tasks. And also we're going to have a space to reflect individually or with the group on how those tasks must us grow towards our professional goals. So the learners must be at the centers to create trust and engagement. Now, the other thing you have to plan at design level is technical issues. Interestingly, most issues are often linked to the learners. They don't know how to use the technologies. They don't know how to use the tools, or maybe use a chat or write on a whiteboard. But for them, it will mean that the technology doesn't work and is breaking the trust. Now, there is nothing worse than a tech issue. It creates frustrations, it will lead to distractions and missed opportunity. The participants totally disengaged, frustrated, feel like his time is not valued, that it's not working, and it is lost. It is something we really need to master. And in terms of technology, it's very often the instruction of what do you have to do, how do you have to do it, giving time and space for the learners to find the tools, slowing down for some, but not letting the other one be bored. So it's already planning the activities in a different space. Now, very interesting challenge is if you have a hybrid group. So you've got people in a room, all as a group, very traditional, and you've got people online. And the trainer can be in either or. However, if you have a hybrid group, then you have a little bit of thinking to do about planning the activities. Who's going to work with who? Very often the group that is not with the trainer is going to feel invisible. So if the trainer is online, all the group in the room will feel like they don't really exist, and vice versa. So it has to be a very active strategy to make sure that everybody is valued. It can be, for example, little tip that if you're in a face-to-face environment, you will always ask the virtual participants as the trainer to debrief first after an activity. So you make them feel valued and visible. It's not invisible and visible, sorry. So for all of this, to make sure this is a slick experience for everybody and that you as a trainer can feel like you're focused, it is very important that you've got someone who operates the technology, who look after the hybrid participant, the other group, someone who's monitored the chat, create breakout rooms, save the whiteboard, launch the whiteboard, someone that's reinforced if there is, if you missed a piece of instructions, someone that's there for you and for the learners, making sure it's pacey, making sure that there is no time wasted and that all technical issues are minimized and made invisible. So now that we've covered the planning stage in a very brief way, we really zoomed through it, let's look at the facilitation. And the first thing you're going to do is ditch the slides. Okay, you never start a virtual session with a 10-minute presentation. No, no, no. You start by surprising your learners. Stop sharing content. Just let everybody look at each other. Let everybody be engaged. Start with the breakout activity where the learners will share their challenges, where they're from, report, debrief. Already we're much more engaged. Why are you here today? Incorporate a lot of role play, a lot of simulation, whatever is relevant. Make some practice, brainstorming. And also, it's not because it is based on the virtual classroom that everything has to be done in the virtual classroom. You might want them to have space to reflect after the sessions, maybe complete little assignments, learning journals, look at micro behavior apps that's going to support the journey. All this kind of thing can make a huge difference and magnify the impact of what you're trying to achieve here. So looking at brainstorming and creative thinking. So you want your participants to be active, you want to know why they're here, you want them to engage, compare, see who are similar to who's got similar issues. So a good way to start is whiteboard, and there are unlimited options. Most solutions got whiteboards built in. So the whiteboard on the left of the screen with 3 columns is a whiteboard that is designed on a slide in Zoom. So participants fill up the columns and the host has moved the text so it doesn't overlap. So it's been used once at the beginning to raise a challenge, the challenge of being structured into 3 different types of content, allowing the learners to really get connected with the topic. Now, you can notice that next to every line, there is sometimes a green tick or a star, and it could be a red cross. At the end of the program, we ask the learners to revisit their challenges and put a cross if it wasn't met, and you can see that fortunately it was met here, a tick if it was reached, and a star if they feel like they really moved forward massively and are feeling empowered and energized about the progress. So it has been reused twice, and it is quite a nice way to show progress or to revisit. And I personally think they are quite powerful and work very well. Next to that board, you've got another type of board, and that's very good for hybrid. It is, I believe, based on either Slido or Booklab, sorry. But Slido, Booklab, Mentimeters, and many other Bcast solutions do similar things. So they can do word cloud, and then you can post questions. And it's quite handy if you've got an hybrid group, because people in the room, if they don't all have a computer for themselves, can contribute using their phone. And what they can do as well with most of the technology is like one of you of the other participants' comments. So as a facilitator, you will see the most liked comment coming right up to the top. So it's ease your process of facilitation. So very good for hybrid. And at the bottom, slightly more complex, but amazing when used properly, is Miro or Mural. Both of them can be used in a very similar way. So it is virtual post-it notes that participants can move all simultaneously, and magically it integrates very well with Zoom now, where Mural integrates with Teams. So it means by integration that your participants don't have to have your Zoom application open on one screen and the whiteboard with the post-it note on the other one. You open Miro in your screen, in your presenter screen, and providing they've got a Zoom license, they can move the post-it notes from the Zoom interface. Very good. So with technology, the thing is that the more it's capable of doing, very often it needs a little more time for the participants to adjust. So Mural or Miro, chances are participants who are not very technology friendly, who are a bit technology reticent, are going to be a little bit put off. So you will need a bit of time to energize them, let them play with it, gain confidence with the tool. So it is probably a very good tool to have for longer programs. I apologize, a little cough. So now we've seen how to brainstorm. And creative thinking and collaboration. Another way of collaboration that I really like is a breakout room. It is not a scientifically established fact, but over the year, we kind of found out that when you create a breakout room, all the participants in a training program are engaged. Whether when you're doing plenary activity, you always have between 10 and 25% who are doing something else. However, a good breakout room needs to be meaningful, relevant, and stretching. Stretching means that the activity is not too easy. And to be stretching, it means that you have to have clear instructions and make time for it. So it also means that you have to allow for a fair amount of time. In my experience, the first things that get shortened when someone runs out of time because they've spent too much time on the content is the breakout room. So instead of having 20 minutes, you get 10 minutes. It's not the same thing, and it will not allow for the same degree of stretching, challenging, and going a little bit deeper in the activity. And another thing that is quite essential in a breakout room is the time that you allow for the feedback. In CIPD Effective Virtual Classroom Review that was published in October 2021, they list the key factors of effective learnings. And you can see that quite close to the top is feedback. Feedback is essential for progress. So every time you give an activity, whether it's type this in the chat, whether it's a whiteboard, whether it's a breakout room, you will have to make time for feedback, which means particularly for a breakout room, that if you have 4 groups of 4 people that spend 20 minutes working on something, you can't really expect to do this debrief in 5 minutes. You will have to probably allow for a good 10, maybe 15 minutes for the debrief and the following conversation. So it is something that you have to factor in, but this is essential for engagement and relevance and trust ultimately, because engagement, yes, if you fail to debrief, then they will not stretch themselves at the next activity. Because this person doesn't care, they're just going by. If you want them to debrief, you have to make sure that that you go into sufficient details, which means that now we're moving briefly, and I'm really swimming through things. We could go into much more details about it, but going into evaluating impact. And a key fact is that in virtual training, we've got a lot of people not completing. So we've got a lot of dropout. We often try to stretch the learning, but then life take over, or priorities, or some things comes up, and your learners doesn't move forward. So sometimes they have to be motivated by the reward, but also sometimes the fact that something maybe less positive can happen if they don't move forward at a certain pace. But we also have to think about the barrier to completion. Is once a week too often? Are the level of homework too many? Is there other barrier within the workplace? To identify this barrier and work toward them, the facilitator must build personalized relationship with the learner, which once again is not always easy in the virtual environment. You've got less time. Some learners are often keen to be less visible. So you have to touch base regularly. Build a community would be helpful. Connect on LinkedIn, kind of build a picture for your group and people within that group. And look if they may be more prone to collaborations, or do they like gamifications? Depending on the value of the group, the organization, you might have to adapt depending on what you want to achieve, just to keep the ball moving and make sure you hit the right note with the group of learners. In short and in summary, less is more. It is not because you can have 500 participants that you should have 500 participants. If it doesn't work in a face-to-face environment, it will not work in the virtual classroom. Ideally, a virtual group for to go deep, we should be between 8 and 15 people. 15, over 15, it becomes very hard to really be personalized. Over 15, anybody who wants to hide a little bit and be less engaged will be able to do it. Even with the producer, it's a little bit harder to keep accountability rolling all the time and permanently. Over 20, it's no longer training. It's learning, it's whatever, but it's no longer practical training because it's very hard to practice with a larger group, to have enough time for individual feedback and so on. And less content, which allow you to have more activities, more collaboration, more accountability, and more application. So what are you going to do with this content? That's where you go into Flip the Classroom, blended learning experience, and you build a process that will engage them step by step in between sessions to complete a certain amount of work. But once again, you have to be realistic, and they have to be helped by the managers and the workplace to be able to complete all this work. And it has to be relevant for them, otherwise they will do something else. Lastly, I wanted to remind you that if you need any form of support at Think Skills, we're here to help. We can help with design, we can help trainer practice, we coach on one-to-one and in group sessions, so you can feel more prepared before you get into your virtual classroom and make sure you are your best possible self. We do have an international team of producers that can produce 24 hours 7. And if you're in a rush, we can help with the design. Now, if you enjoyed this webinar, we have a little roadmap that's recapped this session with some extra case studies, and I hope you enjoy it. You can download it by pointing your phone at this QR code, and you will be able to download it straight away. We hope you enjoyed it, and we have created an engagement session, a series, where we give example of activities on how you can use tools. So you will find it on YouTube, and we hope that it will help you and that you will be able to deliver on goal and result in the virtual classroom. Thank you for your time. See you soon.